What's up everyone, welcome to today's video, welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So it appears that some of the comments and reactions on my last Hogwarts Legacy video has actually gotten me a little bit more interested in some of the details surrounding the game. Now, for the topics of this video, we're going to only be visiting two of those particular details, one of them being the potential release date based on a lot of the information, some of the data that we have, and secondly, how big this particular game is going to be. Now, let's get the release window thing out of the way. We already know, and from what we've been informed from official sources, that Hogwarts Legacy is still on track for this year. Now, I'm in a position where I somewhat doubt that because of some market factors and the possibility that it might have to move into Q1 of next year, but I might be wrong. Honestly, I hope I'm wrong because who doesn't want to play a bunch of really cool games during the holiday season? I know for certain that the holidays provide me a really cool opportunity to get my hands into some good games, and so I really am looking forward to the possibility that we still get the game this year. Other than that, we remember that before Jason Kilar left the position as the CEO of Warner Media, he mentioned that Gotham Knights and Hogwarts Legacy were still on track for coming out in 2022. In fact, it did so on a tweet, which is still available on his timeline. If you choose to go back and look at it, maybe around January or February, this is close to when they actually launched CNN Plus. So for those of you who are probably wondering when the game is going to come out, we already have these details in place. Everything else is just left up to speculation because some of us probably think that the market forces and the competition might allow for maybe these developers to choose a window that's far away from all these other games. But now a lot of us are probably in a position where some people are saying they're looking at maybe December as a potential release date. Keep in mind that it used to be that December did not necessarily seem viable, but we've seen some decent video games come out and do well in that time frame. We saw Immortals Phoenix Rising have a December release. We saw Cyberpunk 2077, and yes, I know it was not necessarily the cleanest experience on the PS4, and we also have seen in the past some other decent games show up around December and do very well. I personally believe that if the developers can push out Hogwarts Legacy in December, which is away from the September rush of a lot of the fall games, and then the October rush of the superhero games, and then the November destruction, which Call of Duty is going to levy on many other games, it will probably resonate well with the community, and people are already in a position where they've already dealt with a lot of that hype for the other video games, and they can set their minds and their attention on this particular game. One thing about video game releases is it's just as important that you release your game in a very, very good window. For instance, if you look at maybe Elden Ring released in February, and in my opinion, I felt like that was the perfect time for a game like that to come out. It stole the airwaves. It took all of Q1 just to itself in terms of attention, in terms of all of the news coverage, and all of the above. Now to set our sights as to how big this game is going to be. Number one, Hogwarts Legacy is coming from the place of being a game that is based off of the foundation that Harry Potter has already set. Now, when I was talking about Hogwarts Legacy in my other video, I think I came about it from the perspective of someone who's not necessarily a huge Harry Potter fan. I think somewhere around one of the movies, I think part 4 or part 5, I kind of stopped watching. It just necessarily did not appeal to me. Already you guys know the Video Game Fight School channel talks a lot about action games, especially games where we can actually punch people in the face if they're bad guys, if you get what I mean. But if you go back and you think about it, the number of Harry Potter fans that I actually personally know are actually a bunch of people. I mean, I'm talking people who right now, we were friends when we were much younger. Now they have children that are the age of my children, and they read Harry Potter books to their children. So it's not just that they're Harry Potter fans, they have children that they're making into Harry Potter fans. So this by itself alone starts to give me this clue, and those of you in the community who've been pointing this out to me are saying that it seems like I'm underestimating the Harry Potter name. And I think that was my bad in not actually factoring this into the equation. And it seems that Hogwarts Legacy is going to really take a very interesting position in terms of how the name recognition is really going to boost its sales, boost its presentation, and its appearance across the board. In fact, one of our audience members said they would dare to say that this Hogwarts Legacy game might touch the area of the GTA franchise. Now, this is a huge speculative claim, but I do not doubt it for 1 second because taking some time to think about this, you really have to estimate exactly where this game is positioned. So let's look at a few things that seem to resonate in this direction. Not saying that Hogwarts Legacy is going to do what GTA 5 did, but it has that potential to be just as huge based on some of these factors. Like number one, the game is scheduled to release on the past generation of consoles as well as this new generation of consoles. That in itself provides a lot of potential gamers, a wide install base, and just the huge amount of possible sales that could come from that. If we look at the estimated numbers and look at, say, where Hogwarts Legacy, where in my opinion, I feel it has a better advantage over Gotham Knights in terms of that potential, is just the fact that it's coming out on the PS4 and the Xbox One. As much as many people might say things regarding, well, many people are getting the new gen consoles now, the sales are getting higher and higher, they're still not at the point of the last gen consoles, because the last gen consoles honestly have had over 7 to 9 years of existence, thereby getting more hands and being in more living rooms than the new generation of consoles. So if they have access to 100 million PlayStation 4 consoles and maybe even 20, 30, 40 million Xbox One consoles, then that in itself provides a very solid place for very, very good sales numbers. Now, to add to that, which basically we'll call icing on top of the cake, that would definitely be the new generation consoles, which many people might go that direction and be able to enjoy the game on these systems. To then top everything off, Hogwarts Legacy is going to be a game that's available on PC, which for many who don't necessarily know, the PC market is actually huge. A lot of people love to play their RPG games on PC, and there is definitely an interest across the board for this particular game. In estimating this, I feel like I've been sleeping on the potential of this game. And I'm really excited that you guys here in the comment section pointed these things out, and it kind of got me to estimate, because I do these estimations and evaluations on a lot of other video games, but because I'm usually talking about the superhero genres, sometimes I don't necessarily focus on the others. But in taking some time to look at this, I think you guys are onto something. Now, we may not get to that GTA place, but it still does not necessarily reduce or remove the fact that this game is going to see a lot of financial success. Everything else is predicated on how the developers go ahead anyways to drop their game and make sure that their game is in a good, great working condition, which I think they're capable of doing. They've done a very good game in the past. Avalanche did the Mad Max game, and I think there's another studio that's actually working with them on this. So we're going to see some really good work being presented. But nonetheless, I'm looking forward to this project. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly its reception. I will be playing it. Why not? The game is going to be out there. And so I'm happy to basically engage in another Warner Brothers title, especially having waited this long for many of them to come out, because, you know, if you guys remember, one of the last major games that we got from Warner Brothers in terms of their publishing, and I'm talking not necessarily some of the smaller games, was Mortal Kombat 11. Since then, we haven't necessarily gotten much. So I'm really looking forward to this particular game as well, even though Gotham Knights being on the top of my list is already naturally going to be coming out before the game. So I think it's really going to make a lot of sense to just basically jump into it to give myself some variation as time goes on. So thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you Hogwarts Legacy fans out there. Those of you who are looking forward to the Warner Brothers games, thank you so much for your input. I'll be keeping tabs on this game a little bit more. Maybe we'll see one or so videos every week, and I hope to talk to you in another video. Thanks so much. Peace out.